Well, good morning, attendees. Thanks everyone for joining us for today's discussion. Very excited about the topic. We are going to get started in just a couple of moments. Well, good morning, and thanks to our participants for joining GSAC for another great conversation today on the topic of manufacturing and supply chain considerations. I'm Danielle Casey, the Executive Vice President for the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. And I have the easy job today of just giving you housekeeping notes and handing things over to our wonderful speakers and moderator. So on the topic of housekeeping notes, this webinar is being recorded. So following today's program, we will send you a post-webinar survey. We always want to know how we did or what additional questions or thoughts you have, and that will include a link to the recording. We've also got a couple of other great links and resources that we will include in that for you as well with today's program. If you have any technical issues or just general questions related to the program itself, please use the chat function and we'll be able to help you out with that. That's in your Zoom toolbar. But if you have a speaker question, we ask that you submit it using the Q&A tool. That way we can make sure that we address all of the questions if time permits, or even follow up with you post-program. So now that we've all shifted into a bit of a new normal, as we know, the way we do business will never be the same, but we're also tracking some consistencies over time. I think the manufacturing topic today is going to be very, very interesting. There are obviously some very big uncertainties in market dynamics in terms of commercial real estate. The logistics sector is obviously benefiting with all of the things going on with people shopping online and shopping from home and really shifting how we're using supplies. But we are going to see what happens over time from a GSEC perspective. You know, we've also seen tours for new prospective tenants in industrial offices on a small scale slowing down. However, we continue to see very big requirements and clients coming into the area. So it's a very interesting dynamic in world right now. So we're excited to hear today from folks that are really on the ground and operating and doing business and providing all the great jobs that our region needs. So again, very excited for today's conversation. So to lead that conversation, I'm very excited to introduce our moderator today, and that is Ken Monroe. In addition to serving as a GSEC board member, very important to us, obviously, Ken is president of Holt of California, a Caterpillar dealer serving the northern Central Valley of California. So the company is actually a family business since 1931, and Ken has served since president since 1998. Holt provides jobs for 800 employees or so, working in bringing big equipment solutions to the diverse needs of customers. Holt of California provides a very wide range of manufacturing equipment to their clients, offers unique bird's eye view into the trends of the manufacturing industry. And for all those reasons and more, we're excited to have Ken bring his expertise to the panel today. So with that, Ken, thank you. Thanks for agreeing to participate and moderate today. And I'm happy to hand the reins over to you.
Thanks, Danielle. We'll jump right into it and get to the really the center of attention, which is David Bender from Circular Polymers and Eric Clifford from Transpac. So I thought I'll give you a question, and then Eric, if you could take this question and then start with, though, a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the company, then lead into this. So the first question is, what kind of immediate adaptations have been made within your company or industry in response to COVID-19? And what other changes do you anticipate coming down the line with that? And I think if you want to add a little flavor to how this is impacting employees and you manage employees would be great. So Eric, why don't you take that and start with yourself?
Great. Well, good morning, everybody. Been in the packaging business for 37 years. I've been with Transpac as general manager for about 5. We've got 21 locations all over the world. We manufacture custom packaging. Run about 60 people here in Lincoln. So yeah, the COVID-19 has definitely been a challenge, and things have most definitely changed. You know, the main adaptations that we've been dealing with have been segregating the workforce, which is always a challenge in a manufacturing environment. So we've got physical barriers set up to keep people from one part of the shop to the other part of the shop. We do have a few people working from home whenever that is possible, a bit of a challenge. It seems like the major adaptations lately have been, mandatory mask usage, which becomes a real challenge in a shop that's 100+ degrees every day with no insulation. So we're dealing with that. Other than that, it seems like the new adaptations that we've got coming down the pike is more of screening tools. So we've got some detectors now, some infrared detectors as people walk through the front door of some of our buildings. Other than that, it seems like we've kind of hit status quo. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's maintaining the hygiene, and we still have had no cases. So within 1,600 Transpac employees around the world, we've had 4 confirmed cases so far. So everything's all good here in Lincoln so far.
That's great. So Eric, just to add on to that, with worldwide, are you doing the same thing in every location worldwide, or does it vary around the world?
We are basically doing the same thing everywhere, although Singapore's implemented some really tight restrictions. Divisions in Mexico had problems with the government. They had to get audited to make sure that they could open up at full capacity, which they were just awarded last week. Malaysia's had a lot of issues, especially early in the pandemic. I was just on the phone with all the GMs around the world this morning. Right now, China is doing great. Taiwan's doing great. Korea's looking really good. All of our U.S. operations are in full swing.
That's fabulous. Great to hear. Well, David, how about your view of things? First of all, who you are and a little bit about the company, and then how have you guys adapted to all of this?
Morning, everybody. David Bender from Circular Polymers. Circular Polymers is a clean tech company. We actually recycle carpet and we turn it back into homogeneous polymers. So we're both collecting and processing in Lincoln, California, and then we service converters who further process our material, which becomes their raw material, and we go into such markets as automotive and packaging, composite lumber, high heat retardant roofing shingles, just a number of industries, and happy to be in the green space. We kind of took a step back and looked at our operations in regards to COVID. I would say it was more of a categorical approach. Do we have the right PPE? Where are we on cleaning and disinfection? What do our social distancing procedures need to be? And at this point, it's not really social, right? It's work distancing. How about monitoring and detection? And if we do have somebody who is either sick or suspected of COVID or has COVID, what are our procedures? How do we handle that? And then how do we bring them back to work safely? And and then finally, also signage. What do we need to communicate to our employees from a signage perspective, from a plan perspective?
So David, you'd mentioned a little earlier when we were talking about some of the unique, I guess, the way that some employees have really stood up, and you were really kind of proud of what you've seen. Why don't you share a little bit about that? It was an interesting perspective.
So what's interesting is as COVID became more prevalent in Northern California, and our employees got extremely concerned, and that actually excited us more than we were. It really excited us that they were that concerned, so much to the point where they asked us not to hire any more temporary workers. That we did have a case of someone who we believe had COVID in our facility, and we were lucky enough that it only happened to one person. They handled it very responsibly, and nobody else got COVID nobody else who got COVID passed it on to anybody in our manufacturing operation. But having said that, we absolutely agreed with the employees that no more temporary workers.
That's great. So they've all picked up. So do either of you see more major changes coming? I mean, the way you both described it, it's almost like business is normal now. Is that a fair statement to make, or are you seeing some major radical changes in how you operate? Eric, go ahead.
Well, we definitely do see some major changes. Customer site visits are a whole different animal now. We're not shaking hands. Everybody's wearing masks. Internal sales meetings between divisions have completely gone away. So the person-to-person contact is really changed, and it's changed to sales from a sales perspective too. You just don't get those face-to-face meetings. You're not taking customers out for lunches. So that's really changed in the sense that it's become more of a virtual business. But from a manufacturing standpoint, we've had some of the busiest months we've ever had in the last 3 months. So it's really been nothing but good for business, but I see a concern about going forward with sales and really making those contacts that we should be making.
Well, and David, let you share on that, but for you, business has not really dropped off then. Is there a reason for that? Is there a segment that's driving that more than others? Eric?
Right now, we've got a lot of medical business. Most of our customers are in the high-tech medical fields, a lot of military customers as well. So the vast majority of our customers ended up getting busier, especially the medical business. So a lot of medical business in the Bay Area, a lot of COVID testing machines, a lot of COVID-related instruments that need to get packed and shipped right away. So we've seen a big increase in the medical end.
So you actually design the packaging and then also provide the transportation for that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, design, manufacture, and transport.
So David, how about you? How do you guys see that? Business the same? Business up, down? What's going on?
I agree with Eric. Things are far from normalcy as we knew it. Hopefully one day we'll return to it. But in the meantime, we've had to make significant changes like everybody else. And first and foremost, it is about protecting our manufacturing facility. The one thing that I think keeps everybody up at night is, nobody wants COVID in their facilities. So it's changed how we operate. To Eric's point, same. If you don't need to be in the manufacturing facility, you can't. We don't want you in there. No family, no friends, no customers, absolutely nobody, unless there's some special circumstance that's going on. So much to the point that even certain outside people that we need to bring in, we'll actually quarantine for a period of time. That's how far we're taking it. And kind of like Eric, we feel very fortunate because our business is roaring back strong. I would say the automotive sector has been a little slow to come back as they've had to adjust their supply chains. I think many of us have read about that. But we're hiring right now, actually. But like the question you asked from before, Ken, we're only taking references from our employees. We're letting our employees kind of participate in the growth of our company to ensure that, the person we bring in is, not just great at their job, but also a responsible individual given the pandemic that faces, our planet.
So Eric, you had mentioned that you guys are even doing some infrared. To what level are both of you doing that as people coming out of the plant, taking temperatures, and then more critically about that, how do you keep records of that, and do you keep those records, and how do you manage all of that employee in and out and trying to keep the plant safe? Eric, what's the detail of that?
It is a challenge. So the infrared thermometers are installed in our Bay Area locations. We don't have them here, but we do have just handheld infrared thermometers. So we are taking folks' temperature when they come in the morning, and we log that temperature in. We see a lot of variance in it. Those temperatures come back low, then they'll come back high, then we'll do it again, and it changes again. So that documentation's all just kept with me as to what the daily temperatures are. A lot of legal issues swirling around out there. Can you take this medical information? Where does the medical information need to be? Are you even allowed to take somebody's temperature? So, we're kind of learning as we go, and I think maybe we're all taking some risk in trying to err on the side of safety. But there's nothing that's come out that says, hey, when you take somebody's temperature, it goes down on a record and it gets locked in a safe under the HIPAA Act. So it's been a challenge trying to maintain consistency through all the divisions.
So David, you mentioned that you've really clamped down on that, but are you relying just on the employees telling you how they feel, or are you doing some of the additional things also?
We also have a thermometer at the plant. We don't have infrared, but we do have a thermometer. I think that we still rely upon, individual responsibility. And I think there's plenty of peer pressure, quite frankly, that may not have existed in March, but exists, in August from other employees. And I think that's an interesting dynamic that's occurred because everybody wants to stay safe. Eric, are you seeing any of that?
I am. What I'm really finding is the geographical differences between employees. So the employees that come out of the foothills, Grass Valley, Nevada City, Auburn, even Yuba City, they kind of think the whole thing's almost a joke. Whereas the folks down in Sac, and especially the folks that have ever spent a lot of time in the Bay Area, are scared. So you've got these two different factions in a sense. It almost feels like there's a political battle in there somewhere. So you've got the folks from the foothills who have a very different outlook on this than folks from the lowlands.
So Eric, curious, I'm sure there's not an official plan for that, but how do you deal with the different attitudes within a plant? If you have two people working side by side and one's kind of carefree about it and the other one's not, how's that manifested itself for managers?
Well, I think like David said, I think there's some peer pressure there. So if you get in a comfortable group with people, anybody, if they're working right next to each other, they're all wearing masks. But when you've got somebody, let's say, cutting plywood on a saw for 8 hours, and occasionally somebody will walk by, it's up to the employee if they need to use it at that point. So a little bit of peer pressure, but I'm not walking around as a cop policing everybody every second. If I see some kind of a major violation, I'll say something, but we've got a good team out there and they look after each other. And I do depend on that in some sense.
Well, you guys have both touched on this a little bit, but I'll put it in a little different terms. So do you guys have an official COVID-19 plan for manufacturing? And if you don't, are you planning on developing one? And I say official, something in writing, something that's people can turn to, or is it kind of as you go? David, how are you guys addressing that?
So I would say that we have guidelines, and we've taken a lot of, we've worked pretty closely with Placer County, understanding what the rules and regulations are. We also turn to outside help in Sacramento, a group called Harbor HR, and our HR works with them to ensure we're compliant. Having said that, we've recently decided that we want to put together a full-blown plan, something similar to what LA County is now requiring for their manufacturing companies.
Eric, how have you addressed that? More formally, or
we do have a plan that was implemented by corporate HR that flowed down to all the divisions, an identical plan, and that's basically talking about if somebody finds that somebody was infected that they know that they're going to get tested, they'll get their COVID-19 pay while we wait for the test results to come back. Cleaning procedures, temperature taking procedures, mask wearing. So all that has flowed down from corporate HR, and it's up to the individual general manager kind of how they implement that strategy in their division.
So both of you have an opportunity to view far beyond just California manufacturing. So you get a chance to look at what's going on around the US, certainly around the world also. And I'd like you to just think, in your opinion, what makes the greater Sacramento region uniquely positioned to support manufacturing, particularly as you adapt to these changes? And also, while you're talking about this, what other things could Sacramento or the greater Sacramento area be doing better to help support all of you? Eric, you want to give us your thoughts on any of that?
Sure. One thing that comes to mind is geographical positioning. So when it hit the Bay Area back in early March, you had a lot of big companies that were kind of freaking out as far as were they going to be shut down. So we had a huge customer deliver 53 trailers full of equipment to Lincoln the next day so that they could get it out of the Bay Area just in case the Bay Area was shut down. So we provide that, where that location is close enough to the Bay Area, but far enough removed that people feel a little safer out here. So that was a really good boon to us in the sense that we were able to, be a little farther removed from the Bay Area. I know that helped a lot. What else can Sacramento do? I think things like this, connecting business owners, connecting customers, connecting employees, just the connection of everybody. You're a good conduit for that.
David, how about you? You've seen a lot of around the U.S. What's unique about this area, and what can we do better?
We like Sac County, and we believe that this whole area is it's willing to embrace kind of private-public partnerships, work together with manufacturing, realize that jobs are necessary in order to keep the economic interests of the region growing, and that's really important. So I echo what Eric said about issues like this and sharing best practices, looking at what's required, where it's going, what else is happening out there. But we like doing business here. We like the employee base here. We like their commitment to us and our commitment to them, and we feel very fortunate.
Do either of you see, you can venture into the political world a little bit on this also, but do you see any differences within the greater Sacramento area, we're in the middle of California also, versus other states or other countries in terms of the regulatory management for how they deal with COVID?
Well, I personally haven't really seen any regulatory management of COVID. Nobody's come to our building. Nobody's checked anything. They're kind of leaving it up to the business. Whereas in the Bay Area, the fire department has come into some of our facilities wanting to check. They've had a lot of Mexico. The government's very interested in the facilities, wanting to check on things. Here in Sac, we haven't had a single visit. We've got all of our documentation posted on the front door per Placer County, but haven't seen any kind of enforcement, help, anything along those lines.
Okay. David?
Well, I would say that in regards so there's two different ways to look at your question. Okay, we work pretty closely with not just Cal Recycle, but also with Placer in regards to our business, given the fact that we're a recycler. But in regards to COVID, it definitely seems to be more county to county regulations. Certainly you've got state regulations, but like, as I said, LA County is different than Placer County in regards to what it requires. Looks like a little bit more stringent. What it says as part of the plan is far more in depth than what Placer is. And, that's why we said to ourselves, boy, what else can we do to, besides the categories I mentioned earlier, be more robust. But we have no issues picking up the phone and calling local and county governments and asking questions, and we like that.
So it sounds like both of you have an opportunity to grow. I mean, you're both very busy. Is finding employees a challenge for you in this time, or is it no different than it was back in, say, January, that ancient time?
Well, we went from an employees market in January to an employers market now. The difference between January and now is night and day. Everybody wanted more money in January. There was a market for them. They could go any. Amazon was hiring as many people as they could, paying decent wages. It's changed considerably. I've got all the employees I could want right now, and all of a sudden nobody's asking for raises every week either. That kind of went out the window. Doesn't break my heart.
That's interesting. David, that's pretty interesting.
We're you know, my partner is just starting that process as we are hiring more people this week. As I said before, you know, we're really going to try to, you know, hire people who are references from within. That's what, you know, we're gonna work on. But like I said, we've just started expanding and, you know, looking to add another shift.
So, but do you see this, both of you see this as an opportunity to grow the business within the greater Sacramento area?
Most definitely, no doubt. It's a great time to be growing.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. The one difference that we have is, since we're a recycler, we rely upon carpet discards. So obviously, you know, not as many people are replacing this carpet during uncertain financial times. So we're looking to actively grow where we get carpet from, and are working on that pretty hard within the state.
So the carpet, the recycled carpet's your raw material going into the batch. Yeah.
Correct.
In that regard, I mean, that's really positive to hear that you've got some industries that are seeing some growth opportunities. What more could Greater Sacramento, the council, or just the community at large do better to help support that growth? So when hopefully this thing gets over, we have a really solid manufacturing base, which doesn't always go hand in hand with California and manufacturing. What kind of things should we do to improve upon that? Eric?
You know, I think that, you know, I think what makes businesses grow is employees and customers, right? So what could Greater Sacramento do to help with either having better employees or happier employees, or more customers? Get that word out. You know, is there a good connection to connect employees with local businesses, or even customers with local businesses? Is it just a person-to-person thing, or is it more of a company-to-company thing? You know, what could Sacramento do? I generally don't look to the government for help. Generally, the government costs me money, and government programs cost us money. So, you know, the more the government can get out of our way, and the more that Sacramento can support us, I think we'll all do better.
David, any thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny, you know, I agree with everything Eric said, but our greatest challenge to growth is raw materials. Not, you know, we've been very fortunate on the raw material side. We've been very fortunate on the manufacturing side, and we've been very fortunate on the employee side. So that's very important to us. But for us, it's all about raw materials, and you know, we still have a lot of education to do, along with CARE, our industry group, on getting people to recycle their carpet and not have it wind up in a landfill. So that is our biggest challenge right now, is just growing raw materials in Sacramento. And you know, we've recently expanded to collect in the Bay Area, because we just can't get enough in the whole Sac region.
So a little advertising from the local government to say, go do a new carpet and recycle would go a long ways for you guys, huh?
So we're like I said, we're working on it.
That's pretty good. Well, some great comments. I also wanted to make sure that if anybody in the audience has questions, please feel free to use the Q&A and get those in, and we'll provide questions to our two panelists. Kind of pause for a second if there's any questions that are coming out there. Danielle, do you have anything question-wise that's come through?
I don't have anything submitted right now, but I would just love to see if anyone wants to touch any more. I know you've talked a little bit about all of this, but are there any specific skill sets from a training standpoint or a talent attraction standpoint that we should have in our target, in our sites, in terms of the types of employees that you're looking for? Maybe, you know, are there any gaps? Is there a certain, a certain area that you're having challenges finding people in that we can help with?
Well, our manufacturing business is a lot of, you know, we build custom crates, we build cases, and we do custom foam. So in all of those, they're very specialized types of industries. You know, I look for people who can have some kind of construction skills, some kind of ability to put things together. A little bit of common sense goes a long ways, but it's hard to find somebody who has really any experience in what we do to bring them on board. Not quite sure exactly how SAC could help me find those people. It's a challenge, and so many times we just end up training people that are green, which is usually my preferred way to do it. They come in with no bad habits. Just the motivation, you know, that's all I really am looking for, is motivated employees who want to work and who are responsible people. You know, we can make them great employees if they have those qualities.
We're working
Eric,
on that common sense training class.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
so Eric, along those lines though, if you do a lot of training in-house, how are you doing training now in-house with so many rules about, you know, distancing and masks and not too many people in a room? How are you managing that?
You know, you have to have it. You know, when you do one-on-one training, your two guys are standing next to each other in masks, and you've got a trainer and a trainee. So there's just no way that we're going to get around. We do a lot of stuff that's really heavy, you know, and you need four-man lifts. And if you do that, guys are going to be close to each other. So there's just really no way to eliminate it.
David, how about you? How do you view this?
Well, you know, it's funny. There are certain things that one takes for granted in other parts of the country that don't really exist. And being a manufacturing facility, I mean, we're, you know, 30 to 40 minutes from the nearest, you know, public scale. Okay, you know, there are some kind of challenges that way to business. But in regards to employees, you know, we too have some proprietary processes. We've been fortunate in, you know, our base of employees has, we have a core group with a lot of tenure, and that's pretty important to us. But, you know, training is a very, very difficult thing right now that requires both attention and social distancing. So, you know, you've got this, you know, you've got something which is seems to be going in opposite directions, but it has to coexist. And you know, we're making it work the best that we can, while at the same time, you know, our prioritization is clearly safety for employees.
For both of you, you know, Eric, you talked about just motivation would be a great skill to have and go a long ways. When we talk about things, one of the biggest, I guess, impetuses that everybody talks about is we need to get kids into college and college education and a degree, and that'll move them out from there. And in our world, we have training, and we bring kids right out of high school. We have partnered with some of the junior colleges to give them some technical skills. Does that follow along with what you guys need? You can move somebody right out of high school into a pretty good paying job if they're really motivated and go from there. And is that an area where we could do a better job of maybe connecting high school, junior college, and not be so concerned about the four-year colleges for you guys? What's your view on what do you need from an employee's skill basis?
Ken, I think that would be wonderful. You know, we really don't hire college grads in the manufacturing environment here, one or two, but you know, those 3-hour classes in high school of wood shop or of welding or to teach a trade to somebody in high school, those are guys that we would just eat up. We would love guys that have really gone through some technical training, just how to, you know, what size nail to use in a piece of 2x4, things like that. So yeah, the connection between, you know, what these kids are learning in school and what businesses really want seems like it would be a win-win. You know, I think everybody would want that.
How about you, David? What are you looking for when you bring people into your plant?
I like, you know, clearly, you know, clearly, and from our perspective, the individual is the most important. And in regards to either, you know, a track record in manufacturing, we can start them at an entry-level job and let them grow into it. We have obviously different positions and requiring different skill sets. We've also tried to work with some of the, local universities in terms of setting up some, part-time jobs in like quality assurance and areas like that. That's been successful for us in the past. SAC has a good university system, and we want to take advantage of that. In terms of trade, though, I agree with Eric. Do we wish there was more trade? People who understood, electromechanical maintenance. Clearly one of the challenges in the region for all manufacturers.
So a place where we could maybe start is helping push some vocational type training in the high school level or junior college level would help both of you in terms of that employee having a little bit of technical background. Fair comment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fair comment.
Great. Anything either of you would like to add to the conversation before we begin to wrap this up a little bit? Eric or David?
Well, I'd say that, after being in the manufacturing business in the Bay Area for 30 years and being in the manufacturing business in Memphis, Tennessee for about 8 or 9 years, being in this part of the world it has a lot of benefits to it. This is a really good place to be from an employee perspective, from a customer perspective, and even this communication that we have going now. I feel real lucky to be where I'm at.
David, any last thoughts?
We're really happy here in California, and we're actually trying to do more. We're trying to get more customers within state and try to keep it within the state versus sending our product back east, or even overseas. We do some shipment outside the country as well. So we're always excited when we find somebody here in California, and I think that's a real opportunity, a real opportunity still that exists. So we're happy to be in SAC. We're happy to be in Lincoln, and we think it was definitely for us it was the right choice.
We're happy to have you here. Danielle, any questions come through before
I think we have. I think we've touched on all of the questions that we got. This was really amazing, and I think the feedback on the vocational work is really critical, and also wanted to just tease up a little bit for our panelists and those listening. We are getting ready to embark on really a bit of a talent attraction strategy where we're working to create some really great web-based tools, even an online jobs board and other things that are really going to promote the opportunities in our region with our employers to people that don't know much about Sacramento. I've been in the region 2 years. This is my eighth state actually as a military kid. But really, if I had known what was here in this region and what was going on, I would have been here a long time ago. And I think there's a lot of that. So we're going to be launching quite a bit of that in the very near future. So please stay tuned, because I think it'll provide a benefit in reaching talent and communicating with potential and future employees as well. So we're excited. And with that, Ken, if you want to introduce our GSEC CEO, Barry Broom, he's hanging out and ready to make some closing remarks.
I would. And first, I'd like to thank David and Eric for your time and your thoughts. Very much appreciated that you joined us and shared your thoughts with us. It's really, really good stuff. Very interesting industries you're both in. And hopefully we'll see more of you in the future. But thank you very much for that. And with that, our illustrious leader, Barry, you want to give us some final thoughts from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And I want to thank the panelists for the conversation. It was really fascinating. When you're looking at manufacturing in the future, one of the real advantages we have in the greater Sacramento region is, our logistic advantage to serving the Bay Area, Silicon Valley markets, as well as the possibility of reaching into LA. So as long as we're looking to manufacture and build new products, so in the future, when you hear things like the California Mobility Center, that's a supply chain strategy for electric vehicles, battery technologies. It's a service model that will help them deliver that. So if you're looking at Aggie Square. In many cases, that is a cell therapeutic contract research play. That's a supply chain provider for the East Bay, Mission Bay, and possibly Seattle and the San Diego life science markets. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to continue to build these important middle income jobs. When you hear people talking about inclusion, really manufacturers and construction are the two best places for inclusion to occur. A lot of young people get their first experience in a job on these job sites, either on the construction or manufacturing side. So it's an important industry to us. We're going to continue to fight for it. I think you're going to see the Greater Sacramento Economic Council push a little harder against the state of California. I think our economic policies in California need to be dramatically revisited. You're going to see us say more about that and possibly fight for more of those things. But I really do feel like, in spite of this pandemic, the region is thriving, industrial's thriving, logistics are thriving, our science community's thriving, our digital jobs are thriving. We just got to put our restaurants and our local retailers back on their feet once this is behind us. So I do see things going forward in the future very positively for us. We're going to have a couple of tough years, but there's also opportunities in tough years to do things a little more efficient, a little more productive. So there's even value in those difficult experiences. So we feel really good about our future, and we're very grateful for everyone here today.
Great, thanks. Daniel, I'll let you take it out.
That's it. Thank you all so much. There are some additional resources that you'll see on your slide. And again, thanks for attending. You'll get a survey link and also a link to the recording of this program, which will also be, a recording of this program will also be on our website on our events page. So if you want to forward this along to anybody who should have heard it, please do so. Have a wonderful day, and please stay tuned and join us for future programs.